Are you aware that in the lawsuit that Mr. Driscoll filed against you and the FBI, he was asked who he voted for?
Since that lawsuit has been filed, that's ongoing litigation, I'm not able to comment.
Well, but it also means that you just said that what happened in his situation didn't happen. So we will go on to the next question. Let me ask you an even easier one. Does firing agents for working on the cases that they were assigned to and that the president didn't like, is that politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
The FBI doesn't terminate anyone based on case assignments alone.
Has the FBI ever been sued by somebody who felt that they were terminated based on case assignments?
In the entire history of the FBI, I'm sure they have.
No, since your tenure.
I'm sure there's ongoing litigation.
Yes. In fact, there is ongoing litigation.
The FBI director was caught on video under oath acknowledging that he is being sued for the very thing he claimed minutes earlier doesn't happen during that half second of quiet you just heard. The same light, lit, 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 lit. He is unable to refute the case. He is unable. He is unable to respond to the question of whether agents are being fired for working on cases that the president disapproved of. Representative Deborah Ross also doesn't blink. In a single statement, she closes the trap. Quit acting like it's not real if you can't talk about it. And this random claim isn't some random accusation. It stems from a 68-page federal complaint filed by 3 of the FBI's most distinguished personnel, men with a total service of 60 years. They claim, under penalty of perjury, that Patel personally acknowledged the FBI tried to put the president in jail and he hasn't forgotten it. That's the first fissure in the facade. Now, Patel's own comments are being used against him. Deborah Ross is going to reveal the receipts that will astound you, so hold on tight. The startling betrayal, treachery, betrayal, 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 betrayal.
And I'm going a little out of order here because I'm going to pursue some of the things that you were just talking to Mr. Fry about and remind you about your confirmation hearing. At your confirmation hearing in January, you said under oath, and I quote, "There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed." And in your written response to the Senate questionnaire, you said, I quote, "Personnel decisions shall be based on performance and adherence to the law, and every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments." So I want to just go through a couple scenarios with you to get a sense of whether you think these are examples of politicization of the FBI or making decisions based on the performance and adherence to the law. So, first question. Would hiring FBI agents, analysts, and supervisors from only one political party being politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
We don't ask FBI people, applicants, where their political parties are.
Mr. Patel, do you ask FBI applicants who they voted for?
The FBI does not.
Look at what Ross did there just now. She didn't ambush him. She didn't have to. She merely created a test that Kash Patel devised using his own sworn statements to the Senate. No retaliation, no politicization, and no case assignment terminations. Ross doesn't hold such standards. As a condition of his confirmation, Patel made such statements on oath, and his responses fell apart when she put them to the test in real life. Rather than stand up for the values he vowed to preserve, he ducked, sidestepped, and withdrew behind legal barriers.
And when President Trump appointed me to be the FBI director, he said, "Kash, you got a mandate to do 2 things. crush violent crime and defend the homeland, and also level the institution that has become the weaponization of law enforcement in this country.
Now watch his own test. The FBI does not, was a mid-sentence correction, and it wasn't an accident. FBI sources reportedly revealed a payback squad that handled politically sensitive cases covertly in May 2026. Patel allegedly requested polygraphs on almost 24 top employees at the same time, looking for alleged disloyalty rather than real threats. This isn't a competency screening by the FBI. This is the precise horror that Patel vowed under oath would never occur. The FBI is checking its own employees for political allegiance.
And the lasting promise that I will leave you with, and this is a message to the law enforcement community, you have always had the backs of the American people, so the Federal Bureau of Investigation and me as its director will have your back.
What's really disturbing about it is this. This is happening in public. The very experts who developed the Bureau's competence in crisis response and counterterrorism are quietly leaving, despite Patel's insistence that everything is normal. Ross is not done yet. She is going to reveal the human cost of this change and identify the victims. What transpires next will demonstrate the extent to which Patel has already subjugated the FBI.
And in fact, people have been asked who they voted for. And in fact, you are running an FBI for the President of the United States rather than the people of the United States, because my questions were not hypotheticals. They are the things you have done during your tenure. And according to a lawsuit filed last week by long-term FBI agents, you fired former acting director Brian Driscoll. He had served with the Bureau for nearly 20 years, earned a Medal of Honor, Medal of Valor for bravery during the dangerous ISIS raid, and had a wealth of crisis response experience and led the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group. When the Trump administrations interviewed Mr. Driscoll for that role, they interrogated him about his political leanings and who he voted for in the last 5 elections. Questions Mr. Driscoll refused to answer because those types of questions impermissibly politicized the FBI.
Let's take a moment to consider that name. Before Kash Patel was even confirmed, the FBI itself trusted Brian Driscoll, a guy who led an ISIS hostage raid and a winner of the Medal of Valor, to lead the agency amid the most turbulent transfer of power in its contemporary history. Additionally, the complaint claims that the Trump transition team sat him down and asked him whose candidate he had supported in each of the previous 5 elections before he could even be considered for a permanent leadership position. Not once, Driscoll declined to respond. He vanished after many months, not for misbehavior, not for subpar work, but for declining an unnecessary loyalty test. This is the information that was left out of the hearing chamber. According to the same complaint, Steve Jensen, who was also dismissed, was under pressure from Deputy Director Dan Bongino to terminate Special Agent Walter Giardina. Bongino allegedly told Jensen that they were spending a lot of political money to maintain Jensen in his position. Read that once more. According to reports, it cost political capital to keep a top FBI officer from being fired, as if allegiance to the president rather than competence was the true value of employment at the agency. And when Giardina was eventually targeted, the complaint contends Patel planned to publish his identity in a report to Congress while redacting everyone else's, even after Jensen personally asked for compassion. Patel declined since Giardina's wife was only a few days away from passing away from cancer. This is the human cost concealed by the nebulous term politicization. Hard-won knowledge is lost, institutional memory is obliterated, and agents in this agency now rely every decision on who is observing from above. Ross is not done listing names. This means the entire scale is darker.
You also fired Steve Jensen, who served the FBI for nearly 2 decades and ran critical terrorism, counterintelligence, and organized crime operations, whom you once described as embodying what the American public demands of the FBI. But he was fired because he took part in investigating crimes committed on January 6th. And Trump's MAGA base lambasted you online for keeping him at the FBI. So he's no longer at the FBI. You also fired a decorated combat veteran with decades of experience in the Bureau, Special Agent Walter Jardia, because he worked on the investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election and helped investigate Trump's ally, Peter Navarro. Director Patel, it is very clear that you have flunked your own test. You've put saving your job, which I actually believe you were being honest about during your confirmation hearings, over doing what's right for the FBI and the American people. That is not adherence to the law. Thank you, and I yield back.
Time of the gentlelady.
Director Patel, it is extremely evident that you have flunked your own test. Ross. In January, Patel penned it while testifying. Every criterion she used to evaluate him: no retaliation, no politicization, equitable treatment, and no terminations for case assignments, came straight from the record of his own confirmation hearing. She didn't accuse first. She began by quoting, and then she just allowed the record do what records do, which is to contradict the person who had broken their own word. However, what you just witnessed was never an ordinary legislative conversation. It was the public analysis of a vow that was broken in reality, despite being made under oath. In front of the Senate and the American people, Kash Patel promised an FBI free from political meddling, where careers would be determined only by performance and compliance with the law. It wasn't a casual statement. They were a clear need for his approval. And yet the record that has surfaced subsequently paints a quite different story. An intentional remaking of the Bureau's culture, where devotion to one man appears to weigh more than talent, experience, or constitutional responsibility. Institutions perish in this way, not with a single dramatic explosion, but with the gradual, deliberate eradication of everybody who refuses to submit. The loss is real when senior executives with decades of experience are fired. It is the loss of institutional memory, which cannot be quickly restored. The agents who formerly oversaw complicated counterintelligence operations, crisis response teams, and counterterrorism groups brought with them invaluable information about how networks function, how threats change, and how to defend a nation without fear or favor. Adversaries are already keeping an eye out for the voids left by their departure. Hearing didn't conclude when the narrative didn't end. Jam, 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 jam. Critics characterize payments as acting more like hush money for witnesses to actions Patel wouldn't want made public than performance awards. Just days before a significant U.S. military strike, Patel allegedly destroyed a counterintelligence team monitoring Iranian threats, according to other reports. This raises an unsettling question. Did the same political self-preservation instinct that resulted in the dismissals of Driscoll, Jensen, and Giardina also jeopardize national security? To be clear, these are not definitive legal conclusions, but rather accusations derived from a federal lawsuit, congressional correspondence, and investigative reporting. Patel has not been found in court. In fact, reporting also says he's subsequently compensated with some of the dismissed agents, reinstating them with back pay, which he may point to as proof the system rectified itself. However, a settlement does not imply innocence. Furthermore, 18 months of an agency that, according to its own director's sworn testimony in that complaint, was instructed to fire anyone who had looked into the president cannot be undone by back pay. Within the FBI, there are reports of a hesitant staff. It has been stated that managers wait for clear top-level clearance before making once routine calls. Agents wonder if the case they are now working on may endanger their career in the future. Bold, autonomous law enforcement does not flourish in such a setting. It's the setting where dangers go unnoticed, investigations take a very long time, and public safety gradually deteriorates. The obvious reallocation of resources is even more worrisome. Hundreds of skilled staff have apparently been diverted from their main responsibilities in counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and public corruption to focus on immigration enforcement operations currently handled by specialist border agency. The consequence is a bureau stretched thin in exactly the areas that represent the most long-term risk to the United States: foreign espionage, sophisticated cyber attacks, and transnational criminal networks. Threats, 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 threats. Reform is not what this is. It's institutional self-harm. It's institutional self-harm. It's institutional self-harm. The political administration was formed with a political administration. The purpose of the precaution was to shield the American people from precisely this type of weaponization. When such independence erodes, the damage isn't partisan, it's national. Every person, regardless of political affiliation, depends on an FBI that can pursue dangerous criminals and examine influential individuals without hesitation. The human cost is just as clear. Families of devoted public employees have witnessed careers based on sacrifice and genuine operational risk vanish, not due to failure, but rather to alleged disloyalty. Everyone who is still inside the building receives an unambiguous message. Political alignment may take precedence over your pledge to the Constitution. Law enforcement is not strengthened by that chilling impact. From the inside, it becomes hollow. In only 5 minutes, Deborah Ross exposed the discrepancy between rhetoric and reality, which is quantified by the amount of political capital used to defend or remove individuals based on who they looked into or may have backed. In a democracy, professional law enforcement does not function in this manner. That's how trust is undermined. And it's very difficult to reestablish once that trust is lost. Witnesses become reluctant to testify. Dry sources. Allies abroad begin to question if it is still safe to share intelligence with the FBI. The bureau's investigative power. If you damage that reputation, the mission as a whole suffers. With only one phrase, Ross concluded her 5 minutes. That is not adherence to the law. The FBI director had 30 seconds to explain the difference between the person he pledged under oath to be and the director he truly became. He referred to them as ongoing litigation. Make what you want out of that. Whether this shift is taking place is no longer the question. His own sworn testimony, a federal lawsuit, and congressional communications from only a few weeks ago all include the proof. How much more harm can be done before someone takes action to stop it is the true question. America is not strengthened by an FBI that reports to political authority rather than the Constitution. Every American is less safe as a result, from corruption, terrorism, espionage, and the gradual, silent deterioration of the rule of law itself. Moments like the one you just witnessed are important because of this. Political theater is not what they are. They're indications that the guardrails supposed to defend democratic institutions are under continuous strain, that competence is being traded for allegiance, and that the next serious crisis may occur at the very moment the Bureau is least equipped to confront it. The FBI should be answerable to the law and the Constitution, not to any one person or political movement, as the American people deserve. They should have leaders who recognize that independence, not compliance, is what makes the agency strong. Even if hearing the truth makes them uncomfortable, they deserve it. Say so if this worries you. Distribute this video. Ask your representatives to respond. Public awareness, not passive acquiescence, is what keeps our institutions healthy. Subscribe, press the bell to ensure you don't miss the next one, and share your opinions below if you want more unvarnished analyses of the forces affecting America's most powerful institutions. Do you have the guardian? I appreciate you watching. Keep yourself informed.